you'd like to live your best day. And perhaps you, like me, think your best day might look something like this. Life comes to you with an experience, and you rise up to meet that experience. You bring the very best of who you are to that experience and respond from a place of authenticity. Then that experience recedes in the background, and a new experience comes your way. Life brings you a different experience. And you rise up again and meet that experience from the best of who you are, saying, "This is me." In between these experiences, rising and falling, perhaps there are some gaps. And in those gaps, you pause and you act in ways that are rejuvenating and restorative. Now, that might be a great day, but my hunch is all too often that's not your day. If your days look like my days, then what can all too often happen is life brings an experience your way, and rather than rising up and bringing your best self to it to meet it, instead you get knocked over by the experience that life has brought to you. You get ungrounded. How come? What's happening to you and to me that we're getting knocked over by life's experiences instead of rising up to meet them with the best of who we are? And how do we change this? Let me tell you what I think is happening to you. I think this whole thing began very early on, when you were still very little, and you were just a young one in your mother's or father's arms, or in the arms of your caregiver, and you looked up at these big people in the world around you as your teachers. These were the people that were going to show you and help you understand the world around you. And this is where you were going to learn from them. How do we relate to each other? How do we relate to ourselves? How do we relate to this big world around us? Now, our caregivers were humans, and they had their own stuff. And perhaps, for example, some of their stuff was they got really anxious around money. And we grew up watching our parents' anxiety every time a money issue came in. Well, then we would quickly begin to feel scared around money. Perhaps our parents were very uncomfortable with anger. And when we got angry, they shut us down and told us to cut that out. Well, then we would grow up thinking that there's something wrong with being angry, and we need to make sure we hide that away. Perhaps our parents were uncomfortable with physical touch or physical affection, and we grew up feeling unsafe with regard to touch. Whatever it might be, we spent 18 years or thereabouts with these caregivers that were around us. And we began to take in, often unconsciously, we began to internalize so much of the relational experience we were seeing around us. Now, fast forward into adulthood, and life throws an experience your way. Say, for example, you look at your checkbook and you realize there's a lot less money in there than you thought there was going to be. And not only do you have the scare of the here and now, but you also have all that old built up experience around how scary money is that you accumulated over 18 years that never got processed. And all that bubbles up to the surface as well. So that when life throws an experience your way in the here and now, you may have your here and now emotional response, but it's usually accompanied by the weight of all the unprocessed experiences, all the unprocessed anxiety around money, for example, that happened throughout your childhood. So no wonder you get knocked over when tough things come your way in life. No wonder that's hard, because you're not only dealing with the here and now of what's happening, but you're also dealing with all that, we'll call it baggage, or we can call it trauma, that's unresolved, unfinished from your childhood. So now that we know that, right, what do? How do we now respond to life in a way that's different than just letting life knock us over? What are the things in your life that are inclined to get you out of sorts, off balance? Just become aware of those, so that when you're confronted by a situation where one of these things is coming up, take a moment to pause, to catch your breath, to bring your empathy, your compassion to yourself, to say, of course this is hard. I'm not only dealing with the here and now of what's happening, but I have a lot of lived history that makes this even harder. And that's okay. I just bring the kindness and empathy to yourself in what's happening so you can ground yourself. And then from that grounded place, you can choose how to respond to what's happening instead of responding from a place of being overwhelmed, knocked over. And now all of a sudden, when life throws something your way, you get to rise up to it and say to life, this is me.